After the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle believed they were inevitably in line to inherit a significant portion of her vast fortune. For years, rumors swirled about how much wealth the British monarchy truly held hidden away in royal estates, private investments, and centuries-old treasures. But beneath the glittering surface of Buckingham Palace lay secrets that would soon unravel everything Harry and Meghan thought they knew. Elizabeth II wasn't just a queen, she was an empire builder. Over decades, she had amassed not only wealth, but also influence through carefully cultivated relationships with global leaders, charitable foundations, and business ventures spanning continents. Though her public persona was one of regal detachment, those close to her understood her sharp mind for finance and strategy. She didn't leave things to chancing, this included her will. As the days turned into weeks after her death, whispers began to circulate among palace insiders. Something didn't feel right. There were hints of alterations to Her Majesty's will, changes so drastic that even the closest members of the royal family were left questioning what had truly transpired behind closed doors. Harry and Meghan, confident in their expectations, prepared for what they assumed would be their moment of triumph. They envisioned walking out of the bank with enough money to secure their future, free from any ties to the monarchy. But little did they know, Elizabeth II had already made her final move-a decision so cunning and visionary that it would change their lives forever. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's marriage had always been under scrutiny. From their fairy tale wedding at Windsor Castle to their controversial exit from the royal family, their relationship was both admired and criticized by millions worldwide. But behind closed doors, tensions simmered between them, silent storm brewing that no one outside could truly see. Meghan, with her sharp mind and relentless drive, dreamed of leveraging their fame into lucrative opportunities. She envisioned a future where they were not just royals but global icons, using their platform for business ventures, media deals, and more. Her ambitions soared higher each day, fueled by visions of power and prestige. Meanwhile, Harry wrestled with feelings of inadequacy, overshadowed by his brother William's role as heir apparent. He felt trapped in a life he hadn't chosen, yearning for freedom yet unsure how to achieve it without losing himself. Their rift deepened after moving to California. Freed from the rigid protocols of the monarchy, they embraced entrepreneurship wholeheartedly. They launched podcasts, signed blockbuster deals with Netflix, and built a brand around their names. Yet whispers of discontent grew louder among friends who noticed subtle changes. Harry seemed restless, while Meghan appeared increasingly ambitious, driven by dreams that sometimes felt unattainable. It wasn't a secret anymore. They hoped Elizabeth's death would bring them financial independence on a scale they could only imagine. But beneath the surface, cracks began to show. Late-night arguments became frequent, often centered around their differing priorities. While Meghan pushed for bigger deals and grander plans, Harry longed for something simpler, a sense of purpose beyond wealth. "We're chasing shadows," he muttered one evening, staring out at the Pacific Ocean from their Malibu home. Meghan turned to him, her expression hardening. "Shadows or opportunities?" she asked, her voice tinged with frustration. The silence that followed hung heavy in the air, a harbinger of things to come. Unbeknownst to Meghan, Harry harbored another secreted clandestine relationship with Sarah Ferguson, Fergie, Princess Andrew's ex-wife. Their connection began innocently enough during charity events, where Fergie shared stories of her own struggles within the royal family. To Harry, she became a confidant, someone who understood the pressures he faced. Over time, their bond evolved into something deeper, fueled by mutual frustration over what they perceived as being trapped by duty. Fergie, ever the survivor, saw opportunity in Harry's dissatisfaction. With her charm and wit, she planted seeds of doubt in his mind, questioning whether he deserved to remain shackled to a life dictated by others. "You're more than just a prince," she whispered one evening over champagne. "When the queen is gone, you'll have the chance to take control of your destiny." For Harry, these moments provided an escape from the mounting tension at home. He found himself drawn to Fergie's confidence, her ability to make him feel seen and valued in ways Meghan no longer seemed capable of. Yet, guilt gnawed at him. Each meeting left him feeling torn between loyalty to his wife and the thrill of rebellion offered by Fergie. Still, he convinced himself that this was merely a temporary distraction away to cope with the uncertainty looming ahead. Meghan, oblivious to Harry's double life, remained focused on their future plans. She poured herself into their joint ventures, working tirelessly to build their brand. But deep down, She sensed something wasn't right. Her instincts told her Harry was distant, distracted, but she chalked it up to stress. After all, they were both under immense pressure, waiting for Elizabeth's passing to bring them the financial freedom they so desperately craved. As the days turned into weeks, Fergie grew bolder. She urged Harry to prepare for the inevitable, ensure they wouldn't be blindsided when the will was revealed. Don't let her dictate everything, she warned, her voice laced with urgency. Once she's gone, you need to act quickly. These words echoed in Harry's mind, planting seeds of ambition and doubt about the true nature of Elizabeth's intentions. Meanwhile, Elizabeth too prepared for her legacy. Despite her advancing age, she remained fiercely independent, working tirelessly until the end. Her final years were dedicated to ensuring her wealth and influence would serve a greater purpose. Through trusted advisors, she restructured her assets, channeling billions into educational initiatives, environmental programs, and social justice causes. These weren't mere gestures, they were part of a lifelong mission to uplift humanity. Knowing full well the ambitions of certain family members, Elizabeth took decisive action. In a quiet meeting with her lawyer, she updated her will, leaving explicit instructions that nearly all her fortune would go directly to these causes. Only minimal provisions were made for personal beneficiaries, including Harry and Meghan. "This is my gift to the world," she declared solemnly, "not theirs." Elizabeth had always been more than just a queen. She was a strategist, a visionary who understood the weight of her responsibilities. She knew that her fortune wasn't hers, alone it belonged to the people she served, the communities she uplifted, and the generations she inspired. For decades, she had worked behind the scenes, building foundations and partnerships that would outlast her reign. Now, in her final days, she ensured her legacy would endure long after she was gone. Her decision wasn't born out of spite or malice, but from a profound sense of duty. She loved her family deeply, yet she also recognized their flaws, their ambition, their greed, their tendency to prioritize self-interest over service. And so, she acted not only to protect her legacy, but to safeguard the values she held dear. As she signed the final documents, surrounded by her most trusted advisors, there was no hesitation in her voice, no regret in her eyes. This was what she had always intended. When Elizabeth passed away, the nation mourned. Tributes poured in from every corner of the globe, celebrating her unwavering dedication to service. Flowers adorned Buckingham Palace's gates, while millions tuned in to watch her state funeral, a grand, solemn event that brought people together in grief and admiration. Yet, inside Frogmore Cottage, a different kind of atmosphere prevailed. Harry and Meghan prepared for what they assumed would be their moment of triumph. They envisioned walking out of the bank with enough money to secure their future, free from any ties to the monarchy. For weeks, they had planned meticulously, discussing how this newfound wealth would transform their lives. Meghan spoke of expanding their media empire, while Harry imagined buying a sprawling estate somewhere private, somewhere far from prying eyes. But as the days turned into weeks, unease crept in. Rumors surfaced among palace insiders about alterations to the Queen's will. At first, Harry dismissed them as gossip. How could anyone challenge the natural order? Surely, as her grandson, he was entitled to a substantial share of her estate. Yet, deep down, a nagging fear gnawed at him. What if things weren't as straightforward as they seemed? The weight of uncertainty hung heavy over them both. During quiet moments, Meghan noticed Harry's restlessness. He paced their living room late at night, his brow furrowed, muttering phrases like, "It doesn't make sense," or "She wouldn't do this." Her confidence wavered too, though she tried to mask it with optimism. Still, an unsettling feeling lingered between them, a subtle tension neither wanted to acknowledge aloud. As the world paid tribute to Elizabeth II, Harry and Meghan waited anxiously for the inevitable revelation. Little did they know, the truth would soon shatter everything they believed about their place in her legacy. The day finally arrived. Dressed impeccably in somber attire, Harry and Meghan entered Coutts Bank, London's most prestigious financial institution. As they stepped through the imposing glass doors, the hushed atmosphere of the bank only heightened their anticipation. This was it, the moment they had been waiting for. They envisioned walking out with enough money to secure their future, free from any ties to the monarchy. Inside, they were greeted by a well-dressed manager whose expression remained polite but carried an air of solemnity. He led them past security doors and down a quiet corridor to his office. The room was sleek and professional, lined with shelves of neatly arranged files. The manager gestured for them to sit as he retrieved a thick folder from his desk. "Your Majesty, Lady Meghan," he began, clearing his throat before continuing. I regret to inform you that Her Majesty updated her will shortly before her passing. Harry froze, his mind racing. What did this mean? Surely there must be some mistake. What do you mean? He demanded, his voice trembling slightly. His knuckles whitened as his fingers gripped the armrests of his chair. Beside him, Meghan sat stiffly, her jaw clenched, trying to mask her growing unease. The manager adjusted his glasses and flipped open the file. A month before her passing, Her Majesty updated her will and estate plans. These changes were made legally and with the assistance of her personal attorneys. Silence filled the room as the weight of the words settled over Harry and Meghan like a suffocating fog. The manager continued, his tone steady but devoid of emotion. All of Her Majesty's asset-sure business holdings, properties, financial accounts have been placed under the control of the foundations she created. The funds will be allocated to educational programs, business grants, housing assistance, and other initiatives aimed at uplifting marginalized communities. Harry felt the blood drain from his face. His vision blurred as the reality hit him, a lifetime of expectations shattered in an instant. Everything they had planned, everything they had hoped for, was gone. And what about us? Meghan interjected sharply, her voice cutting through the tension. She leaned forward, her manicured hands gripping the edge of the table. As her legal grandson, you have been granted a modest stipend to cover basic living expenses, the manager replied evenly. But the majority of the estate has been transferred to the foundation. These changes were made in accordance with Her Majesty's wishes and cannot be contested. Meghan let out a sharp laugh, disbelief coloring her voice. This must be a mistake. Across the desk, the manager's polite expression didn't waver. I assure you, it is not. Back at Frogmore Cottage, chaos erupted. Meghan confronted Harry, accusing him of failing to foresee this outcome. You said everything was taken care of, she shouted, pacing furiously across the room. For her, years of planning and sacrifice had come to naught. She had invested so much her time, her energy, her reputational for a dream that now lay shattered in front of her. Her voice trembled with anger and disbelief. How could you not see this coming? Weren't you paying attention? Harry sat slumped on the couch, his head buried in his hands. He felt the weight of her words like a physical blow. Guilt gnawed at him as he realized how blind he'd been, how consumed by his own frustrations and ambitions he had allowed himself to ignore the signs. Across town, Fergie watched the news unfold, smirking to herself. She had warned Harry about trusting the system, but now it was too late. Her instincts had been right all along. As reality set in, Harry retreated further into himself, grappling with anger and shame. He realized Elizabeth had known exactly what he and Meghan intended. Even in death, she had outmaneuvered them, protecting her legacy from those who sought to exploit it. The realization hit him hard. She had seen through their plans, anticipated their moves, and acted decisively to ensure they couldn't touch her life's work. The tension between them grew unbearable. Late-night arguments became frequent, each one more heated than the last. Meghan accused Harry of incompetence while he defended himself bitterly, claiming there was no way he could have predicted such an outcome. But deep down, he knew she was right. His pride stung, but beneath it lay a deeper sense of loss, not just of wealth, but of trust and partnership. Their marriage, already fragile, began to crack under the strain. In the weeks that followed, Harry reached out to his sister-in-law, Kate Middleton, seeking guidance. Through her intervention, he began reflecting on his past actions and the relationships he had neglected. Perhaps he thought there was still a chance to rebuild bridges not just with the royal family but with himself. Slowly, he embraced a simpler way of life, focusing on personal growth rather than material gain. Kate's advice was simple yet profound. Harry, she said softly one evening over tea at Kensington Palace, you've spent so much time chasing what you thought would make you happy: wealth, freedom, independence, but sometimes happiness isn't about having more. It's about appreciating what you already have. Her words lingered in his mind long after their conversation ended. For the first time in years, Harry started questioning his priorities. He realized how consumed he had been by resentment toward the monarchy, by jealousy of William, and by dreams of escaping the gilded cage of royal duty. But now, stripped of the fortune he had expected, he found himself yearning for something deeper: a sense of purpose, a connection to others, and a way to honor Elizabeth's memory without bitterness. Meanwhile, Meghan struggled to adapt. Without access to Elizabeth's fortune, her dreams of luxury faded, replaced by uncertainty. Public opinion turned against her, criticizing her perceived greed and lack of gratitude. Social media erupted with commentary, some supportive but most scathing. Headlines like, "Meghan Markle left empty-handed after Queen's will reveals shocking truth," dominated news feeds, leaving her feeling isolated and disillusioned. Isolated and disillusioned, she distanced herself from Harry, questioning whether their partnership could survive such a blow. Late-night calls to friends became frequent, her voice tinged with frustration and sadness. "I don't know if I can do this anymore," she confessed to one close confidant. "Everything we planned for, it's all gone, and Harry, he seems so lost right now." Yet, amidst the turmoil, glimpses of hope emerged. Harry began volunteering at local charities, inspired by the work Elizabeth had done through her foundations. It wasn't grand or glamorous, but it gave him a sense of fulfillment he hadn't felt in years. For the first time, he understood why Elizabeth had dedicated her life to service. It wasn't about obligation, it was about making a difference. As autumn leaves fell gently around Frogmore Cottage, Harry sat alone on the porch one evening, sipping a cup of coffee. The air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of wood smoke from nearby chimneys. He stared out at the garden, where remnants of summer blooms still clung stubbornly to their stems. In that moment, surrounded by nature's quiet resilience, he felt a flicker of peace. Maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something new. Meanwhile, Elizabeth Foundations flourished, continuing her work long after her death. Grants funded groundbreaking research, scholarships empowered young women, and community programs transformed lives across the globe. Her name became synonymous with compassion and progress, inspiring countless individuals to carry forward her vision. For Harry, watching these efforts succeed brought mixed emotions. On one hand, he felt pride in his grandmother's achievements. On the other, guilt gnawed at him for ever doubting her intentions. In time, he found solace in supporting these initiatives, albeit quietly, hoping to honor her memory in his own way. He began attending foundation events not as a prince seeking attention, but as someone who genuinely wanted to make a difference. One evening, during a gala celebrating the launch of a new educational program aimed at underprivileged youth, Harry stood near the back of the room, observing silently. The event was filled with laughter, applause, and heartfelt speeches from beneficiaries whose lives had been changed by Elizabeth's generosity. As he listened to their stories, something shifted inside him. It wasn't about wealth or power anymore, it was about impact, about leaving behind something meaningful that could outlast even the most enduring legacy. Across the room, Meghan watched him from afar, her expression unreadable. She had attended the event reluctantly, more out of curiosity than genuine interest. While Harry seemed energized by the atmosphere, she couldn't help but feel out of place. Her mind drifted to the life they had once envisioned, a world of luxury and fame, now replaced by quiet humility. For the first time, she wondered if this path might hold its own kind of fulfillment, though it looked very different from what she had imagined. As the night drew to a close, Harry approached one of the speakers, a young woman named Amara, who had recently graduated thanks to a scholarship funded by Elizabeth's Foundation. "Thank you," he said softly, his voice tinged with emotion. "Your story means so much." Amara smiled warmly, her eyes shining with gratitude. "It's not just me," she replied. "It's everyone she touched." In that moment, Harry realized how wrong he had been to think that Elizabeth's fortune belonged solely to those closest to her. Her true wealth lay in the lives she had improved, the future she had shaped, and the hope she had instilled in generations to come. And as the lights dimmed and the crowd dispersed, he felt a flicker of purpose reignite within him, a desire to follow in her footsteps, not for recognition, but for the greater good. Months later, Harry and Meghan stood at a crossroads, their once unshakable bond frayed further, strained by unresolved tensions and differing paths forward. While Harry leaned toward reconciliation with the royal family, Meghan clung to her desire for independence, unwilling to compromise her aspirations. As they debated their next move, a letter arrived from Buckingham Palace. Inside, a message from King Charles III offered Harry a rare opportunity, a role overseeing one of Elizabeth's foundations. The choice was clear yet daunting. Would Harry seize this chance to redeem himself, or would he allow bitterness to consume him? And what of Meghan? Could she find fulfillment beyond the trappings of wealth and fame? The letter sat on the dining table in Frogmore Cottage, its weight heavier than any piece of paper should be. Harry stared at it, his mind racing. This wasn't just an offer, it was a lifeline, a way to honor Elizabeth's legacy while finding purpose again. But Meghan saw it differently. To her, accepting such a position meant bowing down to the very system that had betrayed them. "You can't go back there," she said firmly, her voice cutting through the silence like a blade. "Not after everything." Harry sighed, rubbing his temples. He understood her frustration, but deep down, he knew this was something he needed to do. For weeks, he wrestled with doubt, fear, and guilt. Was he making the right decision, or was he simply running away from the truth about their failed plans? Meanwhile, Meghan retreated further into herself. She threw herself into work, taking on more projects, speaking engagements, and interviews. It was her way of coping with drawing emotionally while building walls around her heart. Yet, even as she tried to distract herself, the cracks in their relationship widened. Conversations grew shorter, smiles became forced, and moments of connection were few and far between. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Harry approached Meghan where she sat alone on the porch. She wore a simple navy blue sweater over jeans, her hair falling loosely around her shoulders. Her posture was stiff, her expression distant. "Meghan," he began softly, "I've made my decision." His voice carried both resolve and regret. "I'm going to take the role Charles offered me. I think it's time I try to make amends." She turned to look at him, her eyes reflecting the fading light. "And what about us?" she asked quietly, her tone laced with vulnerability. "Where does that leave us?" Harry hesitated, searching for the right words. Maybe this is our chance to start fresh. Not as the people we thought we were supposed to be, but as who we truly are." For a moment, neither spoke. The air between them hung heavy, filled with unspoken emotions. Then Meghan exhaled slowly, her shoulders relaxing slightly. "It won't be easy," she admitted. "But maybe, just maybe, it's worth trying." As the stars began to twinkle above, a flicker of hope emerged, a fragile yet undeniable spark. The road ahead would be long and uncertain, but for the first time in months, they both felt a glimmer of possibility. Elizabeth's legacy might have changed their lives forever, but perhaps it also held the key to redemption. And that's where our story ends. What did you think of this story? Share your emotions in the comments below. We'd love to know what you remember most. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more unforgettable stories. And if you are in the mood for another exciting story, check out our next video. It's waiting for you. Until then, stay curious, get inspired, and keep exploring the stories that make life extraordinary. See you in the next one.